to summarize what we saw. The first and foremost teaching that the Vedanta gives us is the entire creation is a most wonderful infrastructure that a human being can conceive of. This entire creation is a beautiful infrastructure, meaning all that is needed for growth is given. This infrastructure not only supports life, it also supports, it gives support for material growth, for physical growth, for emotional growth, for spiritual growth. So we saw how this creation has given everything that a human being can possibly conceive of. This is what we called as Dharma, the law. Having known this law, having understood this law, the natural consequence of the understanding is what? You should be able to remember this and appreciate it. So remembering and appreciation becomes the first effect of understanding Dharma. The very first effect of understanding Dharma is you see something which is so extraordinarily complete as it were that is given to you. What would be your relationship with it? What should be your relationship with creation? So the relationship with creation will be one of appreciation. So you start appreciating Dharma. Now when you start appreciating Dharma, it means you are appreciating the entire creation. It means you are appreciating the entire creation. Now what is meant by appreciating the entire creation? When you are appreciating the entire creation, it means you have no reason to complain about anything. So it means if you are complaining, you are being adharmic. Straight away will say, oh, you have a complaint about something, you are not following, you are being adharmic. People get very irritated. And say, how can you talk like that? All the analysis is good, but the conclusion and that you derive is not acceptable. Why? Because we have enough reasons to complain about. But then if you understand the very first teaching of Dharma, what is the first teaching of Dharma? The creation is the most wonderful infrastructure. So it's something which is so beautiful, so wonderful. You will gratefully appreciate and acknowledge this creation. Certain natural consequences follow out of this understanding of Dharma. What are the natural consequences? When you appreciate, you acknowledge, second important consequence that will come when you understand this Dharma is you will start becoming responsible. Responsibility is the second consequence of understanding Dharma. The first consequence of understanding Dharma, we called it as appreciation, acknowledging. Now, second important consequence that comes out of understanding Dharma is you become responsible. Responsible for what? There is a harmony. I should not do anything that will disturb the harmony. Your life becomes a constant awareness of not doing anything to disturb the harmony, because there is harmony already. All that we have studied this morning. So there is harmony already. Where there is harmony already, you need not do anything to create harmony. You need not do anything to manufacture harmony. All that you need to do is what? Don't do anything that will disturb the existing harmony. Why? Because with human intelligence you cannot create harmony. With human intelligence you can create confusion and chaos. That much is possible. Human intelligence is resulting in creating chaos and confusion. After creating chaos and confusion, it will talk about how to create harmony. First I will create confusion and then creating harmony. Open the door for them, please. Somebody? The human intelligence creates chaos, disharmony. After it creates chaos and disharmony, it will feel very proud to make an effort to create harmony. Are you able to follow the fallacy in human actions? Again I repeat. First, the human intelligence will do something to create disharmony, chaos. And then it will become very egoistic in claiming what? So much of disharmony, sir. We created harmony. So we talk about harmony in relationships, we talk about harmony in everything. And harmony amongst religions, sir. How can there be a disharmony amongst religions in the first place that somebody has to come and create harmony there? Therefore, the second important thing of understanding is what? You need not do anything to create harmony, but you have to be very careful in not to create disharmony. So the second consequence of understanding is you will become responsible. You are first is appreciating, acknowledging. Second is you become responsible, isn't it? Something valuable is there. What would you want? You would want to be very careful with it. You will want to be very responsible with it. The third consequence of understanding Dharma is this infrastructure is providing you with all the support. This infrastructure is providing you with resources and support. You will become very careful in consumption. The third important aspect of Dharma is you will be very careful in consumption. The proportion of consumption versus contribution. There is the proportion. The third consequence of understanding Dharma is the proportion of consumption versus contribution. When we say consumption versus contribution, in all aspects of life, right from this consumption of water here. If you want to drink water, you will fill only quarter glass. That much you can drink only, you will fill. You will not fill the whole glass of water and throw 3/4 of it. It is the awareness of, this is the third important aspect of Dharma. What is it? The proportion of consumption versus contribution. So, are you a consumer or are you a contributor? The Dharma comes and says, at birth, you are helplessly consuming. As you grow through knowledge, you have to contribute. From birth, helplessly we are, consumption is helpless. Have you heard I am sure you all will remember this example. Have you paid your oxygen bills? The temperature inside is maintained, the temperature outside is maintained. You paid your oxygen bills, the person turns back and say, I have not got the bills yet. If I get the bills, I'll play. What is this example? Have you paid your oxygen bills? From birth, consumption is helpless. As you grow as a human being, in knowledge and understanding, you grow and you start contributing back. But always the proportion between consumption and contribution. Where it is adharma means opposite of dharma. What is adharma? When I take, I don't calculate. When I give, I calculate. In consumption, there is no calculation. In contribution, there is always a calculation. Are you able to follow the difference? Again I repeat. when you are not calculating while consuming, you should not calculate when you are contributing. Mind says, consumption is my birthright. Contribution I can choose. Again, consumption is taken as a right, contribution is seen as a choice. Vedanta comes and says the Vedas, the Dharma, the first principle, based on the understanding of Dharma, what will come to you naturally? The proportion of consumption versus contribution. All other species, which we saw this morning, all other species, their contribution versus consumption. If you see, there is a harmony, because the way they contribute and the way they consume, there is a very perfect balance, as it were. It is imbalance only when it comes to human beings. For example, take a simple example. When the pack of lion kills a wild buffalo, how much of the wild buffalo they can consume? You know that? 40-50% only they can consume. More than that they cannot consume. The rest of the 50%, the other parts of the creation comes and consumes. The hyenas will come, the wolves will come, the jackals will come, the vultures will come, the eagle will come, the ant will come. So in a matter of 1 week, that whole place is cleaned up. The proportion of no pack of lions says it is our hard work of chasing, risking our life and hunting the wild buffalo. Therefore, we will take turns to protect the hunt and keep it for ourselves. This is called harmony in Dharma. Everything in creation maintains this. Everything in creation by default maintains the harmony, as it were. Are you able to follow? The anteater gets eaten by the anteater eats the ant. In turn, the ants eat the anteater. You know that, no? So it means there is a beautiful cosmic rhythm. There is a beautiful cosmic cycle which is already in motion. Therefore, what does the other species do? The proportion of contribution versus consumption is almost in balance. Because it is almost in balance, there is harmony. Now, what all we understand as the corollary of Dharma, consequences of understanding Dharma, violating that becomes adharma. So what all we say as the consequences of following Dharma, whatever we say. Supposing, if you don't appreciate the infrastructure as a support, you will think what? Anyway, it's there only for us to enjoy, no? The human being starts looking at the entire creation as what? It's there only for our enjoyment. It's there for us. Otherwise, why are they born? Why are they born? Of course, to give us joy. Now, what happens when this becomes the attitude towards life, towards entire creation? The same attitude we will carry with fellow human beings also. So we start looking at other beings as source of my enjoyment. Independently, they have no existence. Their existence has no worth other than giving joy to me. If they are not giving joy to me, their existence has no value. This is adharma. Are you able to follow how it works? So when you understand Dharma, you will appreciate, you will acknowledge, you will be responsible. The proportion between consumption versus contribution. When you are careful in consumption, that is called tapas. We all use the word tapas. when you are being very careful in contribution, when you are very careful in consumption, it's called tapas. When you are so joyful and blissful in giving, it's called dhanam. The 18th chapter, Krishna says, Arjuna, whatsoever you give up, at least don't stop these three, he says. He says dhanam and tapas. In fact, three things he says. Yajna, dana, tapas. What does tapas means? Tapas means controlling, sir. Self-control. What does that self-control means? Regulating your tapas is regulating your consumption. Other species helplessly gets regulated. A human being alone can regulate through understanding, and regulating through understanding is what is called freedom. Again, other species are regulated, but they are not regulated through knowledge and understanding by themselves. A human being can regulate oneself through knowledge and understanding. This regulation through knowledge and understanding is what we call as so you are so careful in ensuring that your consumption is always, you maintain the balance. And what is the balance that you have to maintain? The balance that you have to maintain is, remember the percentage. This is the balance between dharma and adharma. The balance between dharma and adharma is not 80-20, is not 90-10. The balance between dharma and adharma is 49-51. Again, if you are careful in ensuring that your contribution is 51% versus the consumption. So the third lesson is what? Because you are drawing support from this infrastructure called creation, which is harmonious, which is providing you with all that is possible, what do? You'll be very careful. You'll be very responsible. Okay, if you are not responsible, what happens? If you are not responsible, what happens? That's where the law of karma comes in. That's why we say if you have to understand law of karma, you cannot understand law of karma without the knowledge of dharma. Because law of karma is almost a corollary to dharma. Because it says if you are not careful in consumption, you are consuming more and contributing less, there is a law. What is the law? What we call as the law of karma. It comes, and what does it do? What does it do? It will temporarily withdraw support. It will temporarily withdraw support. When it is temporarily withdrawing support, you feel so scared, you feel so lonely, you feel as though there is nothing there to support you. There is the deep sense of fear in a human being that they don't feel protected at all. What is that? It's the law of karma, which is a consequence of violating dharma. That's why in Veda Purva that we spoke about this morning, it will always talk about dharma first to understand the importance of law of karma. Now once you understand the dharma, there is a deep conviction in the law of karma. Without dharma, there cannot be a deep conviction in the law of karma. And the very big challenge of today is very difficult to talk about this dharma. Because it is difficult to talk and explain and bring the sequence out, most do not touch upon the subject at all. Now me as a person long back thought, why not take the risk and talk about it? I started. But then you need some experiment. No, where to experiment then? Some guinea pigs are needed. No. Where to experiment? No, okay. But then you need to experiment somewhere. No. Where do you experiment? Some of the universities gave the infrastructure support for that. They said, come and teach our students. I said, wow, it's a very good opportunity. This is where I should try teaching and see whether it is going to make sense or not. I started talking to them, and the resistance and the questions that comes up with which you have to give an answer kept on refining. Still refinement process is going on, that's a different story. How do you understand this? How do you give human beings conviction in the law of karma? If you have to give a conviction in the law of karma, it makes human beings responsible first. You need to teach them the law. What is the law? What is all the pain and misery and agony is because of violation of the law. And if the law is misunderstood as a moral, ethical principle, what happens? People believe I can tweak it, I have a freedom to follow or not to follow. Because moral, ethical principles are like that. So Dharma is misunderstood as moral principle, ethical principle. Moral principle, ethical principle, culture, tradition, values, all these are contextual. They are not eternal. There is this thing called contextual dharma, and then there is this thing called eternal dharma. Now what we are starting with is eternal dharma. In Sanskrit we call it as Sanatana dharma. At least some of you would have heard this word, Sanatana. Dharma is the word, Sanatana is an adjective to that. Sanatana means eternal. Eternal means that which remains the same from the creation till dissolution. Sanatana means that which will remain the same from the beginning of creation till the end of dissolution. It will not change. That is called dharma. Out of that corollary to dharma, one of the corollary to dharma is the law of karma, because the law of karma says it is given to you. Not only it is given to you, you are given as an individual, as a human being, you are given the buddhi with which that buddhi has to be strengthened, and that strong buddhi would be able to guide the mind and the actions in the path of dharma. Intellect guides the mind and the action. What guides the intellect? Can the intellect guide itself? What guides the intellect? The scriptures comes and guide the intellect. So there is the human intellect that is guiding actions and emotions. That is one part of it. Now the second part of it is, what is it that strengthens, what is it that guides the intellect? The Shastras. Shastras means Veda Purva and Veda Anta. So a complete clarity on these two strengthens the intellect, and which will help you. Of the two, which is primarily important? The Veda Purva knowledge is important or Veda Anta knowledge is important? We say, don't distinguish it like that. Learn both. Second one will give you a very good joy of intellectual stimulation. The first one will irritate you. Veda Purva will irritate you. Veda Anta will give you a lot of intellectual stimulation and joy. That's where the intellectual joy and kick of Veda Anta, people like it. Therefore, last few years, there this Advaita. Even last year, few months back, US they were saying we should talk on Advaita. We should have a symposium on Advaita. We'll have this on Advaita. I said, I don't know Advaita. I said, No, sir, I said, no, I don't know Advaita, because I don't know what your Advaita is. Because according to me, Advaita is a very good intellectual entertainment, but it doesn't translate into wisdom straight away. Veda Purva is not entertainment, it's very frustrating and irritating, but gives you the transformation that you are seeking for. What is the transformation that we are seeking for? What we saw in the morning class. The mind should be under our control. You want to tell your mind, under all circumstances, be calm. There is no situation about which you should be perturbed. That's what we want our mind to be, isn't it? Question is, wanting is different. The methodology to get there is more important. Again, wanting is important, but much more important is what is the methodology you will get there. What is the methodology you have adopt to get there? That methodology is called clarity on the law. Once you get a clarity on the, now I am not discussing the laws as yet. I will discuss the laws next. Before discussing the law, we have to give a temptation for people to follow the law. Because without temptation, nothing is. Without temptation, nothing is working. Temptation means the benefit must be told first. There is a beautiful Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad. All this comes from the Upanishads. All this that we are talking, the Dharma and all that comes from the Upanishad. One of the Upanishad, the Taittiriya Upanishad says, even the fool will start doing only when he knows what is the benefit that is going to come out of it. Beautiful saying. It says, even a fool will start doing things only when he understands what is the benefit. Now, before going into the law, we need to tell what the benefits of following the law. What is the benefit of following the law? First, remember, appreciate, acknowledge, and then you will be responsible. If you refuse to be responsible, there is a consequence. And that consequence is what in the poetic language we call as naraka, in the language of mind and intellect we call it as agitations. The language of poetry we call as naraka. Oh, I am going through hell. You don't go through hell, temporarily you come out of hell for some time. Our permanent station is hell. Sometimes by mistake we come out of hell and quickly go back to, is that the life? How to maintain this? Always maintain the proportion of consumption versus contribution. At any given point in time, I am not, all the serious classes also I keep it as an informal session only. That's why anybody wants to clarify anything, just please raise your hand. Want me to repeat something? I keep repeating it. Otherwise, I am assuming that everybody is following, and like a tape recorder, I just go. Like a tape recorder, we go till the clock in the brain says stop. And then we stop. How do you, when all this is given to you, the proportion of consumption versus contribution, then the fourth lesson, the fourth consequence is a life of 24/7 gratitude. The fourth consequence of knowing Dharma is a life of 24/7 gratitude. So through each and every action of yours becomes an expression of gratitude. The four important understanding the benefits that a human being gets. What is it? Number one, appreciate it. First you should be able to appreciate it. Second is you should be able to acknowledge it. It's good. It's there. That infrastructure is there for the growth. Because it is there, you have to be responsible. Why? Because there are others also there. This is such a beautiful, I'm so tempted to take each and one law and go into the books that talk about it. So there are each and every law, there is each and every book that talks about it separately. Unfortunately, we can't do all that. Otherwise, 24/7 you have to be with me only. Yes, I don't want it. I don't know. I want a break from it. More than 1 week, it's too much to do. Life becomes a 24/7 gratitude. Why? So the Dharma tells you how to harvest. The Dharma tells you how you should harvest. You get a piece of land, you grow, and then when you harvest, the principle of Dharma comes and tells you only 70% of the yield you should harvest, 30% should be left behind in the field. Not like how it is clean shaven today. Just shaven clean, no? After the harvest you go and see, it's like, oh God, it's like a scar. It's just everything is ripped out completely. The Dharma comes and says, proportion is 70% you take, 30% leave it behind. Why you have to leave that 30% behind? Just as the lions leave a portion behind and go helplessly, human beings must do it consciously, correct. Very good. Consciously. That conscious doing is what brings that maturity. That maturity prepares you for Veda, Anta, Jnana Yoga, self-realization. Dharma is very important not because as an end in itself. Dharma is very important because without Dharma as the stepping stone, self-realization can never be achieved. And the aim and purpose of Veda is not Dharma, etc. It is only don't forget, the goal of moksha doesn't change. The goal of moksha still remains the same. That doesn't change. The question is, how do you go sequentially to get there, or randomly you can keep jumping from one practice to the other. You cannot randomly jump from practice to other, one practice to another practice. It should be done very sequentially. And if it has to be done very sequentially, what is the starting point? Dharma is the starting point. Once you understand Dharma, there will be then from the understanding of Dharma comes the understanding of Karma. From the understanding of Karma comes the Chitta Shuddhi, what we call as self-development. That self-developed individual will have mumukshatva, the intense thirst for freedom. The question is, I may talk about the intense thirst for liberation, whether do I have it or not is a different question. Dharma comes and says, how to get there. Are you able to follow? Dharma, from Dharma comes Karma. Karma doesn't come first, it is Dharma that comes first. How do you say that? Remember this, knowledge presupposes action. Correct? It's always knowledge that presupposes action. What is the knowledge? The knowledge of the law. And that law is what we are calling it as the Dharma. We use the word Dharma. Now we don't have to keep translating Dharma la, Dharma la, Dharma la. I will not do it again. From henceforth I will just use the word Dharma, and it is your responsibility to hear it as I will say only the Like that, by the end of the retreat, 10 Sanskrit words I would have taught you. It's very easy, it's not that difficult, isn't it? Each and everything. Take an example, harvest. When you are harvesting, that's the example I was giving. When you are harvesting, you need to leave 30% behind. Why do you have to leave 30% behind? Because when you are in the process of farming, you denied the other species their share for a period of time. You denied it. Now it's your responsibility to leave it back. Therefore, what will they do? 30% they will leave it back, and they will call it as Dharma. Correct? Materialistic logic will come and tell you it's a waste of resource. Materialistic logic will come and tell you so much of effort you made and you are just wasting it. Everyone understand the two different types of knowledge that we are talking about? One knowledge will come and say it's how much of hard work you did, how much, and then you just leave 30% and walk out for it to get wasted. So what you should do? Take everything with you. Yeah, you can take everything with you. Machine will ensure that you can take everything with you. 3rd chapter Bhagavad Gita, he says, you will be cooking food and eating sin. When it is cooking, it gets cooked as food. When you eat, it gets transferred as sin. I tell you that 3rd chapter, it's like Krishna scares us in Bhagavad Gita a lot. It's very scary. See, when you are cooking, it is food. When you are eating, it is turning. See, when you are cooking, you want nutrition. No. Imagine you cook food and what goes into you is sin. What will happen? That's what. 4th important, the proportion of consumption versus contribution. Now, when you understand all these things, the 4th law comes in. What is the 4th law? Gratitude. Gratitude comes in. What does gratitude means? Gratitude born out of this understanding. Gratitude born out of this understanding. Are you okay till now? Speak very loudly and talk so many things that no question should come. Yes, ma.
You said knowledge presupposes action.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah. Knowledge presupposes action. Means, before I do an action, I need the knowledge of what to do, how to do, how much to do. So, action is meaningful only when it is backed by knowledge. Therefore, we say action presupposes knowledge. Another way of is I just keep doing it by trial and error. I can without the knowledge of backing also I can learn. Trial and error method, what we would call as, some people get the knack of something, There are people who get the knack of doing a few things. Like there are people who get the knack of electronics. There are people who get the knack of automobiles. They will know how to fix it. But if you tell them, now that you have this knowledge, transfer this to somebody, what will happen to them? They cannot do it. Why? Because they themselves have not gone through the systematic process. So some gets the knack of it, but that knowing is of a very small proportion. Not only it's a very small proportion, they will not be able to transfer it to somebody. Like my mother has learnt the knack of cooking because she is doing it for 70 years, 75 years. And then they tell me, get the recipe from your mother. tell them, no, you can't go and ask her that, she will not know. Because I go and ask her, how do you make this? Take this, put it, that's all. I am taking and putting, ulta result is coming. I am taking and doing the same thing. Now, she knows the knack of cooking, but she doesn't know the science of it. She will not know. She doesn't know how to she will not know how to transfer it. Here, we are talking about not only knowing, but the ability to transfer it. Human beings can grow only through this method. I should know, not only I should know, I should also have the ability to transfer it to the other. In that sense, it's called knowledge presupposes action. And what is the knowledge? The knowledge of what to do, first why to do, after the why comes the how. In that, so many, it keeps growing. But generally we call it as a law, because the starting point is action, knowledge presupposes action. By repeated doing also you can get a kind of knowledge. Supposing a person is repeatedly doing something, they get a kind of knowledge. But that knowledge will not be called as actual knowledge. Why? It's like when you learn mathematics, you can learn the mathematics formula by two methods. And there is a third method which is not the method at all, which is memorizing. There are people who memorize mathematics, no? Two of my friends will do that. They just, I say, how did you memorize the entire, they will memorize. That which doesn't work at all. So now there are the basic two methods. What are the two methods of understanding the mathematical formula? One is through corollaries, another is through the principles directly. You can understand the formula through the corollary. Also, you can understand the formula directly. Now, we are talking about the first method where you can understand the formula directly and then you go into the corollary. Are you able to follow? Now, what is knowing the principle through the corollary and not knowing the formula? Example. The corollary is how to deal with mother-in-law. You gain the knowledge. But the knowledge of how to deal with mother-in-law will not give you the knowledge of how to deal with father-in-law. And then so you learned something. It's not that you didn't learn it, but then this is the corollary. So what happens? It works as long as the condition remains the same. But life doesn't give us that luxury of static conditions. It keeps changing. Because life doesn't give us a static condition, we need to keep, because it is changing, I need to know the formula. That is called knowledge presupposes action. Is it okay, ma? Did I help you? Yeah. Then, yes.
You said there are 4 consequences to understanding Dharma.
Yeah.
Does that also follow a sequence? For example, you said to get to 24/7 gratitude,
Yes.
that only comes through understanding.
Yeah, through understanding.
So is it also following a sequence then?
Yes, it's a sequence. The clarification that he is asking is, I said 24/7 gratitude. Once you gain this, your life will become one of 24/7 gratitude. Now, this 24/7 gratitude will not come straight away. When you understand this, you will want to follow this. Because of the influence of the past conditioning, you will slip, you will fall, and again you will pull yourself back. Again you will fall, again you will pull yourself back. Vivekananda says, character is not built on a single day, he says. Character is built over millions of falls. across many janmas. Character is not built on a single day. Character is built on million times you will fall. Why do we fall? Because of the past, because of the influence of the past. Now what happens? Every time you fall, you need to bring this knowledge back. Now, how quickly you are able to bring this knowledge back depends how deep you fall. If you can quickly bring the knowledge back, the fall will not be that steep. Now, if you have to bring the knowledge back very quickly, it should have convinced you at the core. Then only it can come back fast. Again I repeat, for knowledge to come back and help you, it should come to you in a flash. Now if it has to come to you in a flash, you should have gone that deep in penetrating. Correct? That penetrating capacity is what is called intellect. That penetrating capacity is what is called intellect. Intellect is a penetrating more and more and more. Why do we analyze so much? People think, oh, why are you analyzing so much, sir? Why do you want to analyze? Beyond a point, it looks like playing with words, too many things. Why are we doing all this? And if you don't do all this, the knowledge will not go deep in you. If the knowledge doesn't go deep in you, it stays at a superficial layer. It means you will fall and it will take very long time for you to bounce back. Are you able to follow? So the consequence of it is 24/7. The consequence of understanding Dharma is it will be a life of 24/7 gratitude. Is it okay? First I should know, and then what I know I should remember. This is the principle of education, no? What is the principle of education? Receive. First I have to receive the knowledge. Not only I have to receive the knowledge, I have to retain the knowledge. And then I should be able to reproduce it at appropriate context. R. This is the principle of education. First I have to receive it. What I receive, I have to retain it. Now, receiving is one challenge. What you have received, retaining is a deeper challenge. Now, what is retaining? Retaining doesn't mean memorizing. Retaining is not memorizing. Retaining is you have studied it, you have analyzed it so thoroughly that you can never ever lose it. Under any circumstance, you will not get a doubt. 2 plus 2 equals. You will never say 2 plus 2. I have a doubt. Okay, I understand 2 plus 2 is 4, but still there is a possibility that it can be 5 also. Will you say that? Why? Because you have penetrated that deep. So you have to receive the knowledge, retain the knowledge, and then you should be able to reproduce it. When you reproduce it, the reproduction will have your flavor. Reproduction will have your flavor. That's where you find various masters having their individual flavors when they reproduce the knowledge. That's the beauty of it. Not everybody will just like a tape recorder repeat it, because knowledge doesn't come out of an assembly line. There is a human intellect involved in it, and that human intellect brings it out in a very wonderful way. So that's why Vedas, I started by saying Vedas is a collection of works. Vedas is a collection of works by whom? Whoever is enlightened, whatever they say, we add it into the Vedas. It doesn't really matter which language they come from, which background they come from. All enlightened masters, whatever they say, gets added to the book. But other languages doesn't have this luxury of penetrating and elaborating it in the way that it can be done in the Sanskrit language. So it has an advantage, that's all. You follow? So education means you receive, retain and reproduce. And when you reproduce, you should be able to reproduce it in two ways. You should be able to expand on it and you should be able to shorten it also. That's why you should be able to say it in a formula style. You should be able to say it. At the same time, you should be able to expand it also. If expansion is required, you can expand. If it has to be told in a concise capsule form, you'll be able to do that also. Is okay? What is this gratitude? 24/7 gratitude. How do you express gratitude to the creation? You express gratitude to the creation by performing actions in your swabhava karma. Gratitude is not a separate action as far as Vedas are concerned. That's why you don't do gratitude as a separate action. So gratitude becomes, the expression of gratitude is performing actions in your swabhava karma. That's how, that's where we bridge it together. Otherwise, what is 24/7 gratitude means? You keep saying thank you, thank you, thank you. We don't say thank you at all. At least the Oriental culture, no. There is no such thing called thank you. First time I heard thank you for your time in the academy. Early days, and when somebody has doubts or anything, he started writing the commentaries and books. So he said, anybody has any doubts, questions, they will be redirected to me. And then two boys came, they asked some questions and I clarified it. At the end of it, they said, thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. I am doing what I am supposed to do. What is there for other person to? Now, thank you is not in a specific action. Gratitude is expressed by performing. How do you express your gratitude? Gratitude is not a new set of action. Gratitude is not a unique set of action. Gratitude is performing your swabhava karma. Swabhava karma you perform. What is your swabhava karma? Whatever be it. Now, what is the swabhava karma? What all components goes into that? We are going to study that. That's the theme of the retreat. But before that, we should know what is the bridge. Now I'm only trying to bridge it. What is the life of gratitude? Doing what you ought to do. When we say doing what you ought to do, defined by what? Defined by your own nature. Doing that which you ought to do, defined by what? Defined by your own nature. Are you okay till now? This is called Dharma, the law. Having said law, and then I concluded the morning session by saying we will call in plural. What we will say in plural? Laws. Laws. That's what we speak. That's my style. No? That's the way mother tongue influence, they say. No, it's not natural. It's such an unnatural language. This English language is for how much ever we talk. It's not a natural language because we're trained to talk in different language, think in different language, and then come and communicate it in another language. And we are searching for words. As I'm talking, I'm searching for words also. And then 2-3 dictionaries also I feel like keeping sometimes in front, not knowing what word to. So what is the law? There are a few basic laws. The law, Dharma itself, we divide it into two. One is called Samanya Dharma, another is called Visesha Dharma. Again, Dharma, the law itself is divided into two. One is called Samanya Dharma and then another is called Visesha Dharma. Samanya Dharma means the law which is common to everybody. So there are certain set of laws that is common to everybody, and then there are certain laws which is called Vishesha Dharma. Now Swabhava and all doesn't come under Samanya Dharma, Swabhava will come under Vishesha Dharma. We'll see the distinction later. But remember this, Dharma itself is divided into two, Samanya Dharma and Vishesha Dharma. First, we will talk about the Samanya Dharma because it is very easy to understand the Samanya Dharma, which is the general Dharma. And then we will go to Vishesha. Now what is Samanya Dharma? Law number 1, law number 2, law number 3, law number 4, law number 5. I will say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like mantra, chant it and memorize it. Because it's so important to understand. The first law, the first law, the Samanya Dharma, the very first principle says, number 1, what you don't want others to do to you, you should refrain from doing that first. Again, these 5 laws are very, very important. What you don't want others to do to you, you should remember, first you should not do it to others. Because what you give to life is what life gives back to you. What you give is what life gives back to you. Supposing, take a simple example. Even when somebody is telling you the right thing, you expect them not to shout at you and tell you no. They are correcting you. Okay, you made a mistake, whatever it is, and then the other is telling you should not have done that. How do you want to be told that? How do you want it to be told to you? Screaming, shouting, abusing, vulgar words, do you like that? How do you want it to happen to you? You want it to be very very politely, very nicely, very, okay, say that thing, why do you have to scream like that? Correct? Why do you have to scream like that and say? Why can't you do it very lovingly? How can you lovingly get angry? How is it possible? You lose in anger, no? You scream and shout and break things. How can you? The first law of Dharma starts with this principle. What you do not want others to do to you, you should refrain first. When you refrain, exactly it happens in the same way to you. You refrain. At the very first law itself, human beings violate. The very first law itself, human beings violate. What is the violation? We are all 50% right and 50% wrong. We are 50% right. What is 50% right? We know exactly what others should do to you and they should not do to you. 50% right. What is 50% wrong? When the other expects the same from you, are you able to follow now? You are 50% right. Why? Because you know. Now, unfortunately, the world also expects the same from you. No. At that time, what happens? When the world expects the same thing from you, that's where you will say, toxic people, sir. They are suffocating, they are. Why? Because what you want them to do, exactly they want you to do the same thing. First law of Dharma. What you do not want others to do to you, you should not do it to other. Is the very first foundation principle of Dharma. Now you violate that, in turn the world will, the world will violate it to you. You obey that, in turn, the world will reciprocate. That's why in the Gita he says, world is like a mirror, he says. The Gita he says, world is like a mirror. Whatever you have is what the mirror means. It doesn't have any image of its own. Correct? What is the difference between photograph and the mirror? Photograph means anybody who goes in front, it has its own image. What is mirror? Mirror means it doesn't have any image of its own. Whatsoever comes in front, whomsoever comes in front, it will faithfully reflect. Correct? The Gita, he says, world is like the mirror, faithfully reflecting. What does it reflect? Don't have double standards. When you justify your violent expressions and get irritated at the violent expression of others, if you are okay with your violent expressions, you should be okay with the violent expression of another. 50% right? 50% wrong. The Dharma comes and says, focus on where you are going wrong and reset it. Focus where you are going wrong and the first law of Samanya Dharma. The first law of Samanya Dharma is what you don't want to do to others, you don't do to you. Are you okay with this law? Law number 1. Then comes the law number 2. The law number 2 is, take it or leave it, doesn't matter. There is no such thing called injustice in creation. No sir, it's not a law. If you are in my shoes, you will know how everything around me is only injustice. There is no such thing as injustice. If you say there is such thing called injustice, you are saying there is no such thing called law of karma, cause and effect. If you say injustice exists, you are so convinced on the one hand injustice exists, and then on the other hand you talk about law of karma. How does it work? Understanding the law, Dharma says there is no such thing called injustice. But sir, you don't know. There are so many injustices. Go out and see. Examples after examples will come, isn't it? I was giving this, three got very upset. No sir, Gaza, injustice is happening, no? Gaza, Palestine, injustice is happening. You come and see in this country injustice is happening. You go to the neighboring country and see injustice is happening. Everywhere you open your eyes and see, there is only injustice. You come and meet my family. You come and meet my family. I am the only just person in that entire unit, and everybody around me is unjustful. This law doesn't exist at all. Therefore, we throw this law out of syllabus. But then you are violating Dharma. So remember this. There is no such thing called injustice at all in creation. What has to happen is happening. Why? That is a separate subject. We can discuss that. But the law is very clear. What is the law? There is no such thing called injustice. There is the great saint in South India, Ramana Maharshi. I think some of you would have heard his name at least, Ramana Maharshi. Now, he was, his entire lifetime, he lived in a small town. Not even the city. Even now if you go there, it's not a city. It's a dusty town. Even now you go there. Imagine 150 years back how it would have been. He lived in the town his entire life. He lived in that town. Living on begging, alms. So, by and by, a group of people started gathering around him. When a group of people start gathering around him, it's a problem. Why? menu has to be fixed, accommodation has to be. Everybody find their own food, everybody get their own accommodation. Why? No, you can't do that. No. So menu has to be fixed, everything has to be done. So Ramana has to do all that. So he said, okay, I am not going to get into the samsara of doing all these things. What I do is go out. Go out, you go around the town begging. Whatever they give you, you bring it, we all will survive on that. That's the style he was living. Few weeks later, the disciples came and said, this town doesn't understand your worth. This town doesn't know your value. We should go to another town where your value will be recognized. Nowhere it will be recognized. That's a different story. He said, we should go to another town. Ramana asked why. What happened today? We went round the entire town. Nobody gave food today. Nobody gave food. So we all have to starve. Ramana said, see, 5 days you got food. Did you ever ask why? Are you able to follow? 5 days you got food. You didn't ask why. When you are not getting it, why are you asking? You got why? God decided 5 days we will have food. We had food. God decided no food today. Go to sleep. Without food. There is no such thing called injustice at all. 5 days you got food. It was justice. 6th day, no food. Therefore, injustice. What is the definition of human beings? Injustice. If things don't happen in the way that I want, it is injustice. Is that the definition of justice? Are you able to follow? What is injustice? When things don't happen in the way that I want. 24/7 it should happen in the way that I want. If it is happening 24/7 in the way that I want, I will say, there is this law, Vedanta is correct, Dharma is correct, everything is correct. One event or one situation goes out of it. What happens? The whole thing comes back. What is it? Life is unjust. Dharma comes and says, there is no such thing called injustice at all. It's a very important law to understand. If you understand this law, every situation that you meet, you will be able to deal with equanimity. It's a very important thing to understand this law. If you understand it as a law, you can deal with it equanimity. If you don't understand it as a law, you will have a victim attitude. The moment you have a victim attitude, all that you will want to do is what? If you have a victim attitude, all that you will want to do is what? We want to murder the other. Through thought we will murder, through word we will murder, through action we will not murder. Why? Because if I murder through action, I will be put in prison straight away. Therefore, there I refrain. But then the murder happens through manasam karma, vachikam karma. The murder happens at the thought level, it has happened. At the word level, it has happened. The law of karma, which is a corollary to dharma, comes and says, the human court will punish you only if you do an action. Correct? The human court will punish you. You can't go to the police station and say, this man, in his head, he is planning to murder me 3 years later. You can't go to the police station and give a complaint. Now, what will the police say? What will the law say? Lawyer, you passed or failed? You passed. Don't go to him. He's a lawyer. I saw him like such a, correct, no? You can't go to that and say, then, has he murdered? No, then go back. So, human court can punish only after the action. The law of karma says, at the thought level itself, it has started. the thought level itself it has started. Therefore, if you believe that there is something called injustice, violence happens at the thought level, most of the human beings are cowards by nature. You know that, no? Most of the human beings are cowardly by nature. Therefore, everything they do in their head at the thought level, outside they'll put a different expression. Because it needs a lot of courage to pick up a fight on the street. Why? Because you hit somebody 4 times, you will get 4 times you will get hit back. No, that's why it's very difficult to pick up the fight on the roadside. Now that fellow will be so irritated and frustrated. He can't pick up the fight on the roadside. Comes home and picks the fight on whoever is the vulnerable person there. And that person will take it out on. There's a beautiful episode in the life of Akbar and Birbal. You know Akbar, the Mughal king, and Birbal, the wise minister. So one day, Birbal said something to King Akbar. Maybe he would have said something irritating, he would have told the king. Akbar got so angry and he slapped him. You can do that. So immediately what Birbal did, he slapped the person sitting next to him. Immediately. Now the third guy didn't know what happened. All that he saw is what? Akbar slapped Birbal and Birbal slapped the next person. It went on. That evening Akbar went to the queens. Queen slapped Akbar. The queen slapped Akbar. Akbar said, why did you do that? The queen said, we heard you started this game in the court today. What is the game? Slap the next person. You can't slap the person who slapped you. That's the game. You didn't understand the game. Huh? Who didn't understand the game? Akbar slapped. Now you can't slap the king back, no. So what he did? Slapped the person. So says the going, what goes around? What goes around comes around. It's a law. It doesn't have any exemption. 100 on 100 it works. That's where the principle says it's an impartial law. The law is impartial. In the language of karma, dharma, we say law is impartial. In the language of bhakti, devotion, we will say God is impartial. Point is the same. Are you able to follow? In the language of dharma and karma, we will say law is impartial. In the language of bhakti, devotion, we will say God is impartial. That's why you can't do all the wrong things and go to God and say protect me, and God will protect you. God will not protect you. Why? Because He has created the harmony, He gave you the buddhi, the buddhi is given, the infrastructure is given, the shastras are given, you didn't even make an attempt to know any of it. What will be the consequence of? What will be the consequence? Adharmic life. Adharmic life will be the consequence. And the indicators of adharmic life, worry, anxiety, depression, sorrow, suffering, suicide, I don't know what all you can talk about, And I'm not talking any of those. Anyway, 20% we are talking about that only. Why in the retreat also you have to talk those words. So we will talk about only dharma here. The second law. What is the second law? There is no such thing called injustice. There are 3 more laws. But with the second law, we take a break. 1 or 15 minutes is over. I have to take a break. So with the second law, we take a break, and then we are meeting again at 7 o'clock here. That's the schedule, no? We meet again at 7. Why we leave it deliberately is because food for thought to irritate you. That there is no such thing called injustice, and this one statement trying to understand this one statement, the entire retreat will get over. But then again, at least one point is complete. What? There is no such thing called injustice at all. But innocent people, sir. Next session we will look at these two words, drishta and adrishta, the penetrative capacity. We are going to see it. Once you understand those words, then you know how there is no such thing called injustice at all. It just doesn't talk about, it just doesn't make statements. It gives some explanation for everything. Shakespeare formula. There is a method to the madness. Anyway, the creation is not there, it's all, but then even in all that, there is one method, that is Dharma, the two laws. The first law, what you don't want others to do to you, you don't do to others. Second law, there is no such thing called injustice. And there are three more laws which we will take it up later.